Before we jump into the video, let us thank our sponsors for today's video. Rustsports.com. We encourage you to view their website as per the link below. They have an amazing resource of reviews and a bunch of other stuff available. Should you find the content entertaining, please like, share, and consider subscribing to our channels Frank's Way and Rust Sports. The Norden 901. Is it worth the hype? There's a lot to like and there's a lot that's right about the Norden. Yet a 700-mile test, riding on and off-road across Wales, has left this rust tester a little perplexed. I want to like it, I want to say it's a breath of fresh air, a neat new take on adventure. But to me, there's this sense it's missed the mark on more than one account. It's like Husky have tried to be too clever. It's even more unsettling because we've really liked Husky's 701, or to be exact the 701 LR, for giving us a successful new spin on the 690 platform. We know the Husqvarna guys can deliver. I'm just not convinced they have here. And for that matter, neither is co-tester Craig. And so after all the excited, positive reviews from the world launch in the Azores, we have to ask, did the press get it wrong? The spin. We suspect that when it came to the Norden, Husky's marketing department saw more budget than the R&D team. We say that because when you're making a third variant from a single common platform, and after KTM has already covered off the two outer extremes of the hard enduro and mellowed for the road, namely the 890 Adventure R and 890 Adventure, then as much as you might want to say we pitched this one in the middle, that's not a hot sales pitch. No, you need to spend up, go hard with a new story, you need celebrities, aspirational location film footage and images, then speak of escape, adventure, the journey of life etc. You're going heavily lifestyle. Randy meanwhile sit there with the two 890 KTMs and get to quiz themselves, where can we go with this? As said, ostensibly down the middle. Same motor, same chassis, but not 200mm of suspension, not 240mm, no, 220mm. Meanwhile the product design team know they have to reclothe this beast, make it different, make it not another KTM. And so out with the modeling clay and we get this classic Kiska solution, slightly edgy, always a touch blocky, unconventional but with just enough of a hint of mainstream to make you think, yeah, alright. Honestly, that is the Norden, as much as you might want to say we pitched this one in the middle, that's not a hot sales pitch. 105 horsepower. I think that's what saves it. 105 horsepower is a useful amount of power. Back in the 1990s it was what a typical Supersports 600 produced, enough to make a decent 120 miles per hour lap of the Isle of Man TT course, so you're never going to be slow when you've got 105 horsepower in a motorcycle chassis. Yeah, you've got plenty of hoof, and in a twin-cylinder package that kind of performance also brings enough torque, so snappy overtakes are not going to be a problem. Add in a super slick quick shifter gearbox and you really accentuate the positive. Not only does the Norden, like the 890s, seriously haul ass, but it makes that high-performance cool popping sound with each immaculate gear change. When you want to make quick progress, it obliges. Of course, it cruises just as neatly, effortlessly, and you have to say it's one smooth motor, the twin balancers do their job. While the motor's character is sporty, it's equally balanced in terms of efficiency and ease of use. Unlike many other modern parallel twins, it's not a 270 degrees crank, instead a 285 degrees unit, as the crank pins are offset by 75 degrees, so instead of mimicking a 90 degrees L-twin, think Ducati, it mimics KTM's own 75 degrees V-twins, as per 1290 etc. So it's slightly different, and as said earlier, there's a bit of an edge there, which we often like, not being pipe and slippers types. Having said all that, yeah, it's the KTM 890 motor, isn't it? Craig gets soaked, and yes, he's wearing a BMW rally suit from his participation in the GS Trophy in Mongolia in 2018. We're in a 20 miles per hour zone, so Craig's taking it easy. Elsewhere the Norden loves to romp along. The Norden bopping along happily, Craig meanwhile wishing he could change his standing position from time to time. Travel bike. We've said this before in other tests. KTM and Husky have caught on with the nuances of adventure, understanding there are rally types and there are travel types. Husky clearly have the travel types in their sights with this one. It says so on their website. The Norden 901 is, at last, company for the firm's only other travel offering in their catalog, the 701. It says so there, and they say travel over and again in every brochure for the Norden and in every last bit of social media. And we have Lyndon Poskett duly traveling through Sweden on one in their neat We promo film. Lyndon does the odd skid, dives into the occasional forest, parks up on a shoreline, but he's ostensibly traveling in a sightseeing fashion. Not racing. That kind of feeds into the accommodations on this bike. You sit on it and it's not an 890. The Norden sits squat and square, the handlebars and footrests are low and high respectively. Lower and higher than you expect. And the seat is flat and wide. It's not a classical adventure seating position, more Street Fighter, which you may recall from the 1990s were super sports bikes minus the fairing plus straight bars. Riding the Norden, that feeling comes through. You bat it through the gears and pitch into the curves with some enthusiasm, totally forgetting it's running on a 21-inch/18 wheel combination, not 17 semi-slicks, and it's as well the Pirelli Scorpion Rally ACR's grip as well as they do on the road, and as well the Norden comes with cornering ABS etc. as you can get pretty happy with it. There's a caveat to that. While sporty and natural for snappy road riding, it's not immediately a long-distance perch. Even with the seat raised, it's still a tightish relationship between seat and footrests, and even Craig, with shorter legs than JB here, was soon into that regular leg stretching routine that comes after an hour in the saddle. Oh yes, and the saddle, it's an odd one. Properly narrowed at the front edge to help you get your feet down, but seriously broadened toward the rear and quite flat and board-like. No, it's not the most comfortable and surely will go some way to selling more gel seat options from the Husky Technical Accessories catalog. The bodywork sits around you exactly like it looks. There's a kind of blunt, stubby feel to it. It has a low, simple, quite upright screen, not adjustable, that feels to do just enough, although we both experienced some helmet buffeting with it, Craig more than me. And the fuel tank and upper fairings feel wide and stumpy, all short flanks, it in no way looks or feels sleek. Again, a bit Street Fighter-ish. And deepest apologies to the designers here, but I can't get Transalp out of my mind when I look at the headlight and fairing top sections. However, let's end this paragraph on a positive. The fog lights are a neat touch, probably more useful for picking the bike out among traffic, but also they add a bit to nighttime vision. The Norden being shadowed by the Tenere. Quite different setups, the Norden the squat road bike, the Tenere a tall rally-type ride. And excess of liquid sun in Wales. The Nordens looks do settle on you, in time. Trail bike? You spotted the question mark there, didn't you? Yeah, here things get tough. Where do we start? Okay, standing riding position, not good. As you might have guessed, the low bars and high footrests are not an ideal combination for off-road. Now let's add that odd seat and the broad bodywork, these feel to lock your knees and calves into the one position. If you want to slide forward or back while standing, then you encounter resistance, or at least a broadening of the bodywork that unnaturally spreads your stance. And that square seat, you feel its edge pushing on your calves. Next, and we're sorry, this isn't getting any better, we're not sold on the WP Apex suspension. It's not the plushest, despite the claim 220/215 it doesn't feel long travel and the whole effect is a bit crashy, that's not a real word. But popping along gravel trails with the odd rock and pothole the Norden did kind of crash its way through. We had the Rust long-term Yamaha Tenere alongside, not a model known for having immediately superior suspension, and the feeling on that was far plusher, almost quieter, and altogether more comfortable. And honestly, we're sorry Husqvarna, when the ride gets like that, then 105 horsepower can get a little bit raggy. You notice the on and off of the throttle where the 70 horsepower of the 10 felt smooth and balanced. Dare I say more? Okay, one more bit, again this has to relate to the suspension and ergos, it just didn't feel like a dirt bike. What makes the Norden quite the weapon on the road, makes it feel a touch, and touch more, awkward on the trail. It put me in mind of KTM's 390 Adventure, where the chassis geometry favors road riding. The 390 is okay in the dirt, while it's dry and hard pack, but it seems to go wrong in more technical UK terrain. Now the Norden's geometry reads to be ostensibly identical to the 890 Adventure, so it should offer a similar ride, but it doesn't feel so. Craig likened the Norden to being a rich man's CB500X. What we're saying is we think that it feels 70% road bike, 30% adventure bike. Cornering ABS certainly helps on slick winter roads. Admiring the Snowdonia scenery. I guess what we're saying is if, like us, you thought this Norden would be a funky middle ground between the two 890s, then it's not. Craig and the Norden get loose on a nasty rock band. Welsh trails certainly deliver. It's nice though, yes, we do kind of like the look. We appreciate the fancy electronics, too. It has all the latest rider aids, including cruise control, and we like the functionality and intuitive operating system that goes with it. The TFT instrument screen is great. We like the heated grips, especially when the air temp was reading 4 degrees Celsius. We liked that the 19-liter tank gave a genuine 200-plus mile range. We liked the engine's character. We actually champion the marketing message, let's get back to travel and stop jumping dunes like we're Sam Sunderland. There's lots we like. But. Yes, but. Look, we say this out of kindness, nothing more. We think somewhere in the product design process, going from 890 to Norden this bike transitioned, at the risk of sounding like we're describing cross-gender reassignment here, from an adventure to a road bias. For a lot of riders, that will very probably be a good thing. After all, if they wanted a serious off-road biased adventure bike, they'd have bought an 890 Adventure Slasher already. I guess what we're saying is if, like us, you thought this Norden would be a funky middle ground between the two 890s, then it's not. It's its own thing, a little left field. And in the words of Donnie and Marie Osmond, she, the 890, is a little bit country, he, the Norden, is a little bit rock and roll. Well, a lot road. Only as a road-oriented adventure tourer is the right position not a little too racy, especially in terms of the saddle and legroom, and there's only a modest level of protection from the fairing and screen, it's not an immediate hit for long distances. While, as said, for off-road, it sits away behind its KTM siblings. And after 700 miles, on and off-road, it's not like we didn't give it a chance. Not that you have to listen to me, of course. There are other reviews, including Craig's below, and those who rode it at the launch in the Azores seemed pretty positive about it, albeit having ridden there I know the roads for being ultra-twisty, which suits its sports bike orientation, while the off-road there is generally fairly smooth. So on this occasion, and at Russ being very much about the off-road experience, on balance, we'll stand apart from the herd and be brave and say it's not for us. But that's just us. It might still be the brew for you, especially if you ride less off-road and like your road riding that little bit more engaging than a standard adventure bike typically delivers. It may even be that it's a Marmite bike, some will love it, some will loathe it. Will it be a success? Well, yes, time will tell. In winter conditions and on the OEM Pirelli slick grass was a no-no. Well, that's all for this week everyone, thanks for liking and subscribing. Until next week, safe travels. Goodbye.